Hello and welcome to a special edition of the show where we have a chance to speak at length with the former Iranian President Mohammad Khatami. Seen as one of the key reformers in the country during his 8 years in office, his term is seen in stark contrast with that of the current hardline President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, where relations with the US have hit extreme lows. As Iranians go to the polls in June, many are wondering what's in store for the reformers and what a new occupant in the White House might do to create an opportunity for better relations between the two countries. President Khatami, it's great to have a chance to chat with you. President Obama has said that he wants to try to improve relations between the two countries. What is it he has to do to change the tone in the current situation?
First of all, I believe that having Obama in office is a change itself. And it shows that now the American attitude is changing and seeking the change, and they are not satisfied with the thing that they have experienced in the past 8 years in their administration. And also it shows that the world is craving for change, not just in the United States. They are seeking this change to happen in the United States administration. So to have a colored skin president aiming at change as a main motto, so it's a big change itself. And President Obama, how far he would be successful and how far he would be able to realize what he intends to, it depends on several elements, some of which are not in his hand. I believe that two major changes should occur, which are very difficult task, of course. One is that the United States, which is a very big country with great nation, should forget about the position that they have assumed as a big brother after the Second World War, particularly toward the industrial countries in Europe. They should turn into a brother rather than a big brother. So, and the second one is that the Americans used to play the role of a godfather toward the third world countries. Now they should turn into friends. If these two changes would occur, then we would be witnessing very good changes in the world. But I believe that there are some forces in the United States that are not that much willing to give them the chance to realize this change. But I'm quite optimistic, and then we would see that it would be in favor of the Americans and the other countries.
As a person, though, Mr. President, do you think Barack Obama has the right approach and right attitude towards Iran to fit into your dialogue of civilizations that you've always encouraged?
President Obama has taken up some stances toward Iran, and as it has been announced, Iran is waiting to see if the change is happening in the Americans' behavior in real terms. We had a very bitter past with each other, and if we look at the past, Iranians, we have suffered a lot because of the Americans' deeds, and we have always stated that they never had proper policy toward us. And on the other hand, Americans, they have some concerns about Iranians, and they feel that Iran is always defining its own interests in a way that would be in a close relationship with animosity with the United States. The nuclear issue, for instance, is one reason with the Americans to say that Iran is a dangerous country. I believe that if three confidences would be made, then we would be able to see a great development. One is that we would feel confident that the Americans are changed and the past policies would not be pursued. And the second one is that the Americans would feel confident that they do not see the animosity of the United States as our major interest. We are just against some of the policies followed by the American administration. And the world and the United States States should be confident that Iran would never go to military purposes of nuclear technology. These three confidences and assurances we are able to give, and we should be brave enough to do so. And all of this in a table of negotiation would be possible with no conditions, no preconditions, of course.
But Iran, of course, has to, from an American perspective, has to change, as you've mentioned, the issue of the perceived nuclear threat, the issue of support for Hezbollah, for example. How willing do you think Iran is to change and gives America something it can hold on to?
I would like to refer to the message of the Supreme Leader on the Iranian New Year Eve, that if we would see the real changes in American administration's behavior, for sure we would consider some changes in our approach. But with regard to what you stated, Iran never intends to make an atomic bomb. We are now just defending a legitimate right to have access to the peaceful purposes of the nuclear technology. As a member of Non-Proliferation Treaty, it's our right. And thanks to God Almighty, we have accessed this technology, and we have had many negotiations with IAEA, and they wanted an objective guarantee that we are not going to make a bomb. But at the table of negotiations, we have to reach to this objective guarantee, and particularly on Hezbollah and Hamas. A couple of times we have stated that we do not intervene in their activities. We are just spiritually supporting the oppressed people over there, and we are against occupation and suppression. And of course, we do not know them as terrorists.
The thing is that there's a feeling that Iran has become a lot more isolated from the world community since you were president. That under President Ahmadinejad, there has been much more of a sense of baiting and aggression with the United States. How much do you see that gap? How much do you see the relationship with America having widened since you were in power?
Of course, my policy was majorly focusing on détente and confidence building. And while I was emphasizing on our own national interests, we were trying to build a good confidence with other countries. We got to very good conclusions. We had the best of relationship with our neighbors in the Persian Gulf, in Central Asia, in eastern part of our borders. We used to have, also with Europeans, we had excellent relationship with Eastern Europe and Eastern Asia. Also, we removed most of the tensions that existed between Iran and the United States. But unfortunately, the reaction that we received, the feedback from the Americans during Bush's administration made some sort of pessimistic approaches and attitudes in Iran. And many of the things that we wanted to commence was spoiled, and the Americans also paid off. We had this pessimist attitude in Iran toward Europeans and Americans, particularly in the nuclear program of Iran. I told to the European countries to resolve the situation as soon as possible. In negotiations, we were very close to the final conclusion, and if I told them that if you are not going to conclude, then the pessimists in Iran would get reinforced that the Western countries, United States or European countries, they would like to deprive Iran from the legitimate right of accessing to this technology, and unfortunately it happened. The Americans put the pressure over the European countries, and yes, you're absolutely right. After my term in office, a new attitude was in the administration, but it was something that happened in those days. And if we are going to compare, I believe, the Americans also had very improper stances. It was much harsher than what we experienced in Iran. And during my term in office, they called us as a country of axis of evil. And also they were quite violent and furious toward Iran, even before Ahmadinejad, during my term in office. And also they tried to have the influence over the people in the region so they would not have the integrity among each other. And I think the wrong policies of the Americans, particularly in 8 years of the Bush's administration, it was not in favor of Iran and United States.
Mr. President, we have to stop for a short break. We're back with more with our conversation with President Khatami in just a moment.